programme features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
A brief break in the rain means an opportunity for all of the soggy animals of the African wilderness to dry out. Let's go and see if we can find them. This is Safari Live.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
A very good afternoon to all of you and welcome on the Sunset Safari after a somewhat rainy day out here on our reserve. My name is Jamie and this afternoon Seb is on camera with me and we have learnt our lesson from this morning, have we not, Seb? In that we have the roof. So if you see anything entering into your frame, by the way, the roof's name is not Jamie, my name is Jamie, but no, it's entirely my fault. If you're wondering every now and again if the roof does sneak into frame, it's because it's been raining all day. We're coming to you live from a place called Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. So up in the top northeastern corner, where in theory we're actually going into our dry season, but that doesn't seem to have been the case today. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask or send through, you can do that on #SafariLive on Twitter. Perhaps you'd like to know how much rain has fallen. I actually don't know how much rain has fallen. I'm going to guess 10, give or take a little bit. But as you can see, it's sufficient for the dwarf mongoose to be a little bit soggy on this particular afternoon. I think they're relishing in the fact that the sun is popping out from behind the clouds every now and again. It's a nice opportunity to practice some aloe grooming, clean up their fur. Oh, shame, look how soggy they look. It must be a pretty rough time if you're the size of a dwarf mongoose. Bear in mind they're only a couple of 100 grams and about the length of my forearm. So being that small does mean that they get a little cold or sweet. Luckily, in a dwarf mongoose family, there's always a friend to help you reach the bits you can't get to. Like the damp fur on their backs. Brrr. Yes, have a jolly good shake. There you go. Help each other out. Stefan, who is South African. Stefan, you would like to know if this amount of rain is unusual at this time of year. It is rather. I have to say I was caught completely by surprise, as you may or may not have noticed, given the sodden state of all of us when we arrived in the tent this morning on the sunrise safari. So it's late. It's not unheard of, but it is quite a late rain, and it's quite a large amount of late rain. Usually we go into our dry season around about now, and it basically stays dry for the rest of the winter up until around about October, and we might get a day or two of drizzle in June or July, but it's usually very, very dry. Late rains is great. Any little bit helps as we start to go into the dry season, and we're certainly a good deal better off than we were this time last year. And something that I think all the animals, large and small, from the dwarf mongoose to the Inyala with Byron, will appreciate.
Look at this beautiful female Inyala just moving off. She has a lovely view of her. And that's very nice. Good afternoon again. My name is Byron, and Senzo is on camera with me today. And we've just found a small group of Inyala. There's some other females that moved away from us. This female is in there, and there is a male with her. Have a look. He's probably going to follow that female now. He's just in through the thicket there. See if you can see him. Just there goes the female, and the male is just behind those trees. There he is. And he's doing exactly what I thought he would do, is following the female, potentially looking to see if she's in estrus or not. One of my favorite antelope Beautiful Inyala, and this is the ideal habitat for them. Lovely thick area, this drainage line that we are in at the moment. There's a lot of trees and leaves that they will feed on. They are browsers, and hang on a second, I can see some more coming through. Probably see a few of them shortly crossing the road. I'll let you know when they do. It's a nice view of that male though. See, I think he spotted the other female that's heading in this direction. Oh, wow. The southern boo-boo. It's a lovely sound calling. You might be able to hear it. You hear that? Ah, beautiful southern boo-boo. I'll show you what it looks like. So I haven't actually heard one of those for a long time. There we go, the Inyala. It's very peaceful there at the moment in this drainage line. And what I'm also trying to do is just listening out. Maybe we get some alarm calls from some of the antelope in the area. Potential leopard moving past or predator moving past. Now let me just show you a picture of the southern boo-boo. There it is. Look at that. It's a very beautiful bird, but you don't see them very often. Southern boo-boo, let's see. There we go. And then let me see if I can play that call. See, and the southern boo-boo actually has a number of different calls. This is one of them. I wonder if they play. There, that sounded almost like what that one was doing. But as I said, there, that was kind of what that one was doing. So a number of different calls by the southern boo-boo. But it's a beautiful bird. But they are difficult to see. Like all these bush shrikes, the boo-boos, they're all similar, very closely related, and they like thick areas. They move through the trees. It's not easy to see them. But that was a lovely call. They've all got beautiful calls. Now this weather seems to be changing again. Alright, well, let's go and see what other animals we can find on this cool, rainy, gloomy day. But it's time for us to head to the big boss man in the tent.
Well, Byron, we all know that you are the real boss man in amongst the staff here. You always have been. Now, as Byron said, my name is Tristan, and on camera today we have Craig, aka the Batman, who is back from leave and is happy to be back by the looks of it. He's smiling, which is always good when Craig smiles. He's a man of very few words, so a smile says 1,000 words with him. Now, you may wonder that we are on bushwalk, or are we in the tent? Well, we're in the tent, and the reason why is because of these big dark grey clouds that are hanging around to our south and our east. This morning we got caught out a little bit with quite a bit of rain, and yesterday it was also a bit gloomy in the afternoon, so we thought we'd be safe rather than sorry and spend our time out in the tent. Well, actually not out, in the tent rather. Now, what I'm going to probably do today is I'm going to look for all little things, because I think after the rains maybe we might get lucky and we might find a few insects emerging, maybe a few flowers starting to come out, which will be quite nice. Other than that, I think what we should do is maybe we should go through the leopards of this area and where their territories lie. So for any of you that are interested and you want to know specific leopard territories, you can ask at #SafariLive, and we'll try and address all the territories and how they all fit in together a little bit later. Now, when we came into the tent earlier, Craig managed to spot something quite incredible, and I'm hoping that it hasn't decided to move away, because it really is quite a spectacular specimen. So when we were sitting outside, there was a small sort of fluffy little orange thing that was on the ground, and Craig said to me, it's a caterpillar. And when I went to go and have a look at it, you can see here at the microscope that it's curled itself into a little ball, so it almost looks like an acacia flower. I can assure you that is not an acacia flower, so I'm going to just try and position it nicely on the under the microscope so that we can all have a look, and hopefully we'll even be able to see it moving. Now, it's just a little bit tricky because it does move a little bit and the little hairs seem to stick to everything. So there we go. Now you can see there, isn't that amazing? That is the fine little minute hairs that all come out of a central point in the caterpillar, and you can actually see the caterpillar kind of moving every now and then, and it's tucked itself into this tight ball because I'm sure these hairs probably cause massive amounts of irritation, and so if anything touches it, they will get probably some sort of venom or poison that is given to them, or some sort of irritation to their skin or mouth, and that will then leave the caterpillar alone. And its underside of its body doesn't have these hairs, and so that's why it curls up into a ball, much like what a millipede would do, to be able to then sort of protect that underside and make sure that there's no damage to the under part of it. Now I thought I saw something else moving in there, so I'm just going to adjust our focus quickly because I want to just see if maybe there's a little parasite crawling around in there, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like maybe just a little piece of sand. As the caterpillar was moving, so the sand moved as well. But isn't that the most amazing little caterpillar? I have no idea what kind of caterpillar it is, and so I'll try and see if I can find out. They are quite difficult to identify, but I would imagine it's a moth, not a butterfly. I just have that feeling. I don't know for certain, but I'm going to try find out. Right, while we see what we can find out about this little creepy, hairy caterpillar, let's go across to the other hairy member of our team, Byron.
Thanks, Tristan. We've got a beautiful giraffe, just a single giraffe, and it appears to be a female. Now, have a look at those horns, those little ossicones on top. They've got little tufts of hair and they're quite thin. And there's a lovely starling there too. Look at that starling. Looks like, now again, we spoke about this when we did our birding day. These little starlings that all look quite similar, but there's a lovely iridescence on that one. And that one looks like the greater blue-eared starling. You can see it's actually got a lovely bluish color around the ear area. Behind the eye, you can see that darker, deep blue very clearly. Greater blue-eared starling. They look very similar to the Cape glossy starling. Both have orange eyes, but the blue-eared has got that very deep dark blue. A lot of oxpeckers on that giraffe too. Look at that. Red-billed oxpeckers. Oh, nice start so far. Beautiful inyala. Tall giraffe. I'm going to try drive very slowly this afternoon. I think I'm going to look for birds, interesting little birds, and my theory is that if we take our time and drive through the bush slowly and carefully, things will happen for us. So that's my plan for the day, actually. I hope you are all having a wonderful weekend wherever you are in the world. It's been a long weekend in South Africa, so people have all been traveling around, going away, especially to the bush. This time of year, April's very popular. A lot of people going on safaris, different destinations, different part of Kruger, private game reserves, all over. It's very, very busy this time of year. If you are traveling home, travel safely. And if you're stuck in the cities and you need your bush fix, we are here for you. But let's head back to Jamie now, who's got a small antelope to show you.
I have a small antelope that, somewhat unusually, is sitting very, very still. The poor animals out here on a cool and cloudy and rainy day, they can't go and cuddle up under their blankets and put a movie on or a film on. They just have to lump it, which is why on days like today you usually see antelope actually lying down, sheltering as much as possible in the way that this female duiker is doing. tucking themselves into the densest vegetation they could find at times, and also basically by lying down, essentially reducing the amount of surface area that is exposed to the wind, which when you have soggy fur, I can imagine is a thoroughly unpleasant deal indeed. We are searching for Hosanna, who apparently his tracks were coming in this direction. I'm pretty sure that this little female duiker would prefer to avoid young Hosanna, who at, how old is he now, 15 months? He must be, yes, he is. He's essentially 15 months old, and Hosanna is quite a big boy. He would most definitely be capable of catching and killing a small antelope like this. So she would want to avoid him. Hey girl, look at your pretty long eyelashes. I don't think it's been a long time since I've had a grey duiker sit this still. It's the only duiker species that we see out here, the grey or the common duiker, and as its name suggests, the most common of the duiker species. But it is the same family in which the smallest antelope in the world falls. The smallest antelope that we get, not here, but in the coastal areas of South Africa, is the blue duiker, and they're utterly adorable. I remember spending many happy years as a child with my grandfather searching for grey duiker. Aha! I feel justified in our roof. Yes. Oh, bye. My triumph has led to the disappearance of our duiker. But it is raining, and I do feel better, because Byron was humming and hawing about whether he should put his roof on. Let's go and see if he's happy that he has.
Not yet, Jamie, not yet, but it's sprinkling. There's been a sprinkling of rain since we've been out, and I do think we are going to get some rain again later. But luckily, we have got our roof on. And look how many oxpeckers on that giraffe. Now that I just glance over, that's amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... at least 8 or 9 that were on there earlier. Sure, a lot of oxpeckers. Reese, you asked if the intake of food changes during the seasons by the animals. Yes, definitely, Reese. And the best example I would say is of the impala. If you have a look at the impala now during the summer, end of summer, now the rutting season, the males are looking very big, very healthy. They've eaten a lot of food. There's a lot of water around. It will definitely change in the winter. They're not getting as much nutrients from the food that they're eating. They're a little bit more selective of what they eat. But the food intake will definitely decrease slightly. But they will still be able to hopefully get the nutrients that they need to survive the winter. But yes, I'm sure it does make a difference depending on the time of year, because the amount of food that they have around in the summer is far greater than that there is in winter. So I definitely do think that there will be a slight food intake variance from winter to summer. Just listening to all these oxpeckers. Our beard, those birds are indeed collecting ticks. There are a number of ticks on the giraffe. I don't know about the pepper ticks or what species of tick. There'll probably be a number of different species of ticks on the giraffe. But they will indeed be picking off all those little ticks and fleas that they can get around the skin of the giraffe. Now, we are going to head into a very short ad break, so stay tuned and join us shortly to see what else this giraffe gets up to. There we go. I think that was good timing, hey, Chris? My little ad break practice there. On the money, look at that. Anyway, we're just practicing for ad breaks for the television show, those of you who are watching. And you know how it all goes. We do have to practice and try it. Who needs practice? I'm just joking. Others are going to shout at me for saying that. Leslie, I have absolutely no idea. You asked, is that giraffe coat as soft as it looks? I'm not sure. I've never touched a giraffe, so I don't know. I have no idea. I wonder if Tristan or Jamie know if they've ever touched a giraffe or not. You see, there's some more sprinkling going on around me at the moment. The rain, a little few drops, and then it disappears again. It's actually fascinating. If we just go up, watch that giraffe feeding on that tree. And have a look at their tongue, how they use their tongue. Now, am I right? What is that? Is it a buffalo thorn? I think it is. Yeah, it is indeed a buffalo thorn. And can I tell you, I cannot believe how these giraffe are able to feed off of these buffalo thorns. When I say they have sharp thorns on them, it is incredibly sharp. And they're able to wrap their tongues around the leaves, pull the leaves off and feed on, or wrap their tongues around the branches and just pull the leaves off. It is amazing. It really is amazing. That is probably the worst tree out here in terms of thorns, I think, in my opinion. I've walked into a number of buffalo thorn trees before, and they always draw blood or tear your clothes, and they can be quite nasty. If you do get stuck in one, it's not very pleasant. Very sharp little thorns. One hooked thorn, one straight thorn. And the reason why it's got such sharp thorns is because the leaves are so tasty. The leaves are actually very, very nice to eat. We can even eat them. You can use it in a salad, perhaps. If you were making salad out in the bush, you wanted a proper bush-themed salad, you can indeed use the leaves from the buffalo thorn and put it in there, and they're very tasty. Quite crisp. Actually, let me move forward here for a second, because there's a buffalo thorn right here. Let's see if I can find. Now, I'm not nearly as good at this as the giraffe is, picking off the leaves off the buffalo thorn. Now, can you have a look here? If you have a look at my hand, just look at how sharp and those little thorns are. See, just touching them. You've got to be so careful. Very sharp, straight one. There's that hooked one at the bottom there. You see that? But when I say it is sharp, it's very, very sharp. So a great way to protect themselves. And as I said, these leaves are quite tasty. Senzo, would you like to try one? Have you ever tried a buffalo thorn leaf? Try that for a second. Let's see. No, I don't think you'll get tick bite fever from this. Crisp, green, very tasty. Not bad. Hey, Senzo. Oh, hang on. Is this the poisonous one? Just joking, Senzo, don't worry. Nice buffalo thorn tree, Ziziphus mucronata. That is the scientific name of this. It gets spoken about a lot by many, many guides, because there are a lot of uses for it, and that it is an interesting tree, and it's a lovely tree to see around. And especially because it's so interesting to see animals going and feeding on these leaves, especially with these very sharp thorns. Right, that giraffe seems to have hidden itself a little bit behind some trees there. I think we're going to continue and see what else we can find. Well, Tristan is doing his duty with the microscope. Let's see what he's got under there this time.
still playing around with this caterpillar because it is so interesting. This little thing is crawling around all over the place now. It's now unfurled from its ball and is moving around under the microscope. So I was just having a look just to see if there was anything interesting in amongst those spiky hairs that are coming off it. Now, it doesn't seem to have any mites or any sort of funny insects, but you can see its back is now out, and you can actually see the fine little hairs that come off the spikes. So you can see the spikes. I'm going to try and see if I can point them out to you, but it's quite difficult. You can see in amongst them are little spikes there, so those almost look like a sea urchin, and then below that are little fine hairs. Now those fine hairs are the ones that will irritate the human skin and make you really itch, and the spikes are the ones that will actually go in and cause a little bit of a problem, and there might actually be some sort of toxin that comes out of those little spikes. So I'm going to try and see if I can investigate this incredible little caterpillar. But while we do that, I asked all of you earlier about leopards and who would you like to know about in territories, and so I think we should start probably with our leopards that we see here on Djuma. So I've got a map up here which has got Djuma in this area here, Arathusa on the western side, Cheetah Plains, and then Chitwa, which it's now actually not very accurate because Cheetah Plains actually sits a little bit further to the east of where Djuma lies. So in real effect you would have had Chitwa over here and then Cheetah Plains further along. But I'll do the Djuma leopards to start with, and I know a lot of you have obviously still very worried about Karula, so let's start with the queen because she's on everybody's mind, and I'll get into a little bit more about her now. But pretty much Karula, if we had to take the map of Djuma, she is the entire map. Alright, so she would be all the way along. She'll even go a little bit into, I've seen her as far as Simbambili, into Red Dam, that area, and then she comes down, and this will be Hoffman's at the bottom. And then Little Gari over here. Now, sorry, there we go. So she would come down into Hoffman's, Little Gari, and then all the way along Chitwa, up Buffelshoek Dam, and then into Manyeleti at the top. So that would all be Karula. Now, Karula obviously has been absent lately, and the problem with that is that it's now left this massive void. And so with Karula, unfortunately there's still no updates with her, and nobody actually knows where she currently is. There hasn't been a confirmed sighting of her since the 16th of March, so we're almost 2 months now, which is quite a long time. But you never know with her. Like I say, it's possible. It would be very unlikely, but it is possible that she could potentially have had cubs. I would be very surprised if she has had cubs away from this area. Like I say before, all her previous litters have been around this particular section and around Djuma Camp and along the Mulawati area, so it's going to be very different if she's gone somewhere else. But it is possible that she may have had cubs, and otherwise I don't actually know where else she could have gone. She could have gone up into the north, into the Manyeleti section, which would have been up here. There's very little traffic up there, and so it would be quite tough for us to know if she is up in that section. The thing is if she was there, she would have at some stage done a territorial patrol or hunting, and she would have come back and we would have found female leopard tracks. Now, I haven't heard a female leopard track being called in anywhere on Buffelshoek, anywhere on Djuma, other than the ones that have been called in on the extreme eastern sections around Mamba Road, which is where Tundi often goes, and the other ones that have been called in are all along down near Zoe's. So they're all at the bottom here on this side, which is where Shadow will come in, because Shadow, who we'll draw next, her area is basically Arathusa Dam, so we'll go along like this. She comes along, she cuts in here along Zoe's Road, Vuyatela access, Simbambili, along Chalolo, and there. So that's all Shadow this side. And so now with Karula missing, I wonder if it's not the tracks that we are seeing coming in from Zoe's and those areas is not actually Shadow starting to shift this way and coming into Karula's territory. It is going to happen if she is gone. Unfortunately, somebody like Shungile, or a leopard like Shungile, should we say, not somebody, but a leopard like Shungile, she's not going to be able to fight off a big adult female like Shadow or Tundi. And so for her to sort of settle in this area is going to be very difficult. She's still very small. She's going to have to grow quite a bit. If it was a year down the line, then maybe, but I see it being very difficult for her to find a territory. So we'll kind of carry on with this whole thread as we go. I believe Byron has found something almost as big as his biceps.
Just you got too much time on your hands in the tent there, it sounds like it. But we have found a beautiful big elephant bull. So I think our plan this afternoon of driving slowly and listening out because I actually heard the branches breaking. That's how we spotted him. But he looks like a really big Ellie bull. I'm hoping that he decides to come out a little bit for us. Just a little bit out into the open. Looks like there's another one. I can't see. I can just see a bit of movement actually through the trees, through the back. So I do think there's at least 2 or 3 elephant around here. There seem to be some more through the back there. Can you see? There we go. There's another one. Perhaps even a herd. These big males, all of you know how much I love seeing them. So I'm hoping that he decides to step out a little bit. I'm going to sit here for quite some time and just see what he does. If he moves a bit closer to us. Seems to just be feeding very, very calmly, very quietly, tearing at some grass. See that occasional flap of the ear, just to perhaps cool themselves down a bit. Look at those tusks. Wow, he's got beautiful tusks. Very impressive tusks, quite widespread. Oh, that's a lovely view. It sounds like he's breaking. I'm just going to reverse a little bit. I do see 1 or 2 others there. Hang on a second. Just want to see if we can get a better view of them. Let's just see. Can you see that one through there, Sensor? Look, there's another little one through there. Smaller one. Cadence, you wanted to know what those huge ears are for. Well, Cadence, there's a number of reasons for those big ears. Now, the African elephant do have much larger ears than the Asian elephant, but down here in Africa, the main reason for the big ears is to help cool their body down. So by flapping their ears, it's not a case of them. It's not a case of them actually blowing wind over their bodies to cool down, but they've got a number of veins or a network of veins running through those ears. You can actually see even on the outside of the ear, you can see those veins clearly. But if you look on the inside, they are very, very clear. So what they do is, because there's so much blood running through those ears, they flap them, and as they flap their ears, it cools the blood down slowly. Not by much, but it does cool the blood down a little bit. It takes about, I think it's between 7 and 9 minutes for the blood to circulate through the body. So it does help regulate temperature somewhat. But the other thing, Cadence, is when elephants feel threatened, they'll flap those ears quite quickly. And it's a good sign that they're upset, that they want you to move on. And don't stick around, to stay close to them. So it is a warning sign too. They can use their ears as a warning sign. And if they also want to chase you away, they'll stand quite tall, lift their heads, and open their ears, make themselves look a bit bigger. Let's have a look at this male here. Let's see if we can just see him again. He's feeding on. So what he's done is he's broken a branch off that marula tree, and you can just see him through there. He's busy feeding on a branch that is broken. Just see if he puts it in his mouth again. Ask yourself this. It's an interesting Twitter handle. You wanted to know how old this elephant is. Now, judging by his size, those tusks, size of his forehead. Just have a look quickly again at his forehead. Some prominent indentations on the forehead. I would guess that this elephant is well over 40 years old. It's difficult to say. I would say late 40s, maybe even close to 50, judging by the thickness of those tusks, the size, how they've been worn down. You can see that it actually ends in a sharp end at one tusk. Look at that. That's just by using the tusk constantly. It wears it down a little bit in the front. You can probably hear some grey go-away birds calling behind us at the moment. There's a bit of drizzle again. It's amazing how they're all standing dead still, these elephants. It's almost, and they do communicate with each other very, very well. I've seen it a number of times. Elephant will go, they'll move, they'll feed, and if they think they've heard something or if they think they've smelled something, it's like a message is passed through the entire herd, but they all stop at the same time. They'll stop and they'll listen and see if there's any danger or threat around. It's really, really amazing. I'm going to see if this bull decides to come out a little bit more for us. But Jamie has also got some elephant to show you.
I do indeed have an elephant that is, I think, a little bit further away than Byron's, and possibly even more hidden behind the various trees and bushes. Nice big bull. We have been so lucky with bull-elephant sightings over the last few days. I know that Tristan had a truly extraordinary looking male on the sunrise safari. He was telling me all about it, and I saw all of the screenshots that you shared. So thank you for those. And it also, just by the way, helps us to keep in touch with what the other person has seen, particularly on a rainy day when nobody's got their cameras out. So we do appreciate all of the screenshots that you share. Although I have to confess, I think a screenshot of this might just be a slight waste of space. It's a great view of his ear canal, and that's pretty much it. Now, elephants are happy in this weather. It's always, my heart always leaps for joy when I find elephants in this sort of weather, because they're energetic, they're not too hot, they're not grumpy, they're often exceptionally playful, particularly the young males, as they wander around, play in the mud, dig in the mud, kick sand everywhere. It just tends to be a thoroughly entertaining experience. And there's certainly going to be a great deal more rain. I do apologize because I'm really struggling to hear the names this afternoon. I think Viewer Watcher, Deer Watcher.
Deer Watcher.
Deer Watcher.
Yes, that's what I.
Deer Watcher. Deer Watcher. Gotcha. Deer Watcher, you want to know why elephants' eyes are so small? They don't really particularly need them. And they're actually not that small. They're a little bit bigger, they're a little bit larger than ours. They just look proportionately quite small in their massive heads. And really because in terms of, I appear to be collecting a monkey orange. Let's not smash poor Rollo's lights that he's got hidden under there. In terms of their senses, male elephants, or elephants in general, don't particularly rely on a sense of sight. They can't see all that well. They pick up on movement quite well, but other than that, their dominant senses are their sense of smell, their hearing, and actually in a way their tactile senses. So you'll probably find within their brains, which are still not as big proportionately as ours are, but they're about 3 times the size of ours. Here we go. Hello, my boy. How perfect is that? And that is why, as we take a short break, you absolutely should not go anywhere, because anything can pop out right in the road in front of us. So join us after the break to find out what we see. This is, of course, an imaginary ad break. I'm sure that Byron has already explained to you exactly what this is all about. It's practice for our Mother's Day television shows. So we're not taking any breaks. We're not introducing any adverts. We're just watching wildlife. and making sure that we get our timing correct. Because if we don't, then Kirsty shouts at us, and that is a terrifying experience indeed. Let's go catch up with this bull. I'm quite happy we've got these elephants. Kirsty says it's good that I'm terrified. I'm quite happy we've caught up with these elephants because now the rain is really pouring down, which means it might be a better idea to actually stay still. Hello, big boy. Nice pair of males. Let me just make sure I don't get into his way. But they're completely calm. You can see it in their body language. Hey, mister. Apparently it's absolutely pouring a bit further to the east of us. I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio. Wow. Apparently it's rained 30 mils since last night. I'm quite astounded by that. That makes animals like this elephant very, very happy indeed. Oh, goody! Here's a nice gentle breeze to blow the raindrops in. How lovely. What do you think, mister? You must be happy. I'm always struck by how thin elephants' back legs look. I don't know why I feel that way. I think it's just the strange proportions of them. You can see that thick and very, very wrinkled skin. Oh, somebody wants to rest his weight. Just like those of you who stand on one hip, as my physio and chiropractor often shout at me for doing. Stand leaning with your weight on one side. Elephants like to do that as well. Often against things, but not always. He's got such yellow tusks. An odd colour. You can see he's broken the tip off that left one. And you can see he's using that left one repeatedly. Like human beings, a lot of elephants are left or right tusk dominant. Like being left or right handed. Not all of them. And that doesn't mean that they can't use the other tusk, but they do tend to favour one. Seb, you must just shout if you want to put down the flaps at the back. Okay. If we need to, we can. So far, so good. Lucky you. Oh, that's lovely. Let's have a look at this. Oh, roof. Such an iconic shot, that. The elephant strolling along the road. Now, we've spoken about the size of an elephant's brain and the fact that it is 3 times the size of that of a human being. Laurie, you want to know how big an elephant's heart is? You know, I used to know this off the top of my head, but now I'm not actually sure exactly how much a heart weighs for an elephant. It must be, I mean, in terms of size, it must be an absolutely massive organ. Got to pump blood all over that enormous body. But maybe Tristan and Tent, with access to the World Wide Webs, and you at home, obviously if you're watching us, you've got an internet connection, you can send that through. How big exactly is an elephant's heart? Tempted to say very big, but that really goes without saying. Interesting things about elephant hearts and elephant structures. I don't know if any of you have ever watched a documentary called Inside Nature's Giants. It's fascinating. I would strongly recommend it. Not if you're squeamish, though. If you don't want to watch something being cut up, don't. But if you are interested in that kind of anatomy, it is fascinating. And apparently, elephants are this is something I've learned since working on these live safaris. Elephants are one of the animals that don't have a pleural space between the lining of the lungs and the rib cage. It's directly attached. It's thought that might actually help them deal with water pressures. Oh, somebody's trying to call me. Standing by. Taxi, I've checked Twin Dams, Weaver's Nest, Treehouse. I'm slowly making my way to Gary Main. Sorry, everybody. Copy that, Tax. Just stand by 1 second. And welcome back to our imaginary TV audiences. We're so thrilled that you are all back with us once again from your imaginary cups of teas and toilet breaks. My name is Jamie, and if you have just jumped on board, this is a live safari from the middle of the Greater Kruger National Park area. So a world-famous conservation area in the top northeastern corner of South Africa, where we are right in the middle of our dry season, as you can tell. Every now and again the wind just blows, and it blows the sort of the air or the breath out of my mouth, and then I can't speak properly. Now, as you know, I was in the middle of having a conversation and looking at some elephants. What did I just hear? Did I just hear an alarm call?
I don't know if it was an elephant trumpeting or something.
Could be. The wind is now howling. Seb and I both heard something. Attack, sorry. I know this morning that Rex picked up Nkonzo going sort of into that drainage between Philemon's Dip and Twin Dans. Copy. Thanks, Tax. I'll come south along Twin Dams and just check around there. Thank you. Sorry, everybody. I know this is very distracting, but it is very, very important that we communicate with the other guides in this area. And Taxon's just called me to say he's found Hosana's tracks in the Mulwati. That's why I'm focusing on chattering to him. It's a very important way of, well, finding animals, and also making sure that we all coordinate our efforts in a useful way. There's the rest of the elephant herd, or at least one member of the rest of the elephant herd. And these bulls have probably been trailing along behind them. My life in Africa, I'm not describing my own or describing a book title. My life in Africa, thank you for sending through that information about an elephant's heart. Now, I would say that this would probably not be the case in this little chap's life. Not yet, anyway. But apparently an elephant's heart can weigh up to 22 kilograms. What's that, about 45, 46 pounds? And it will pump 256 liters of blood, did you say, Kirst? Is that per minute? Presumably. Must be 256 liters per minute. Yeah, that seems a lot. I know that their heartbeat is quite slow. They've actually got very, very slow heartbeats, around about 30 beats per minute in a sort of a comfortable elephant in its resting phase. So a big, slow heart. And their whole body structure is astounding when you think about how different it must be to weigh up to 5-6 tons easily. Not in the case of this little one, though. This little one probably only tops the scales at around about a ton or so, maybe even less. Are you enjoying the rain, little one? I think so. We don't have the most fantastic view of these elephants, and I think I am actually going to move on from them, just because I want to go and give Tax a hand with trying to find young Hosana. I'm going to wrap myself up, go and search for our leopard, and while I do that, let's go across to Tristan so he can give you some more detail on where our leopards like to be.
Well, yes, we shall carry on with our conversation. And as I was saying to you earlier, that Shongile is probably in all likelihood not going to be able to settle anywhere in this area because, as I had drawn, that Shadow was coming in from the western side. So I'll add Tundi in now because that's the next female that we have in this area. So Tundi's territory is not quite as big as what Shadow or Karula's is. Hers is a little bit smaller. Now, this isn't to scale. I've drawn a new map because my last one was useless and it was all becoming too complicated. And there's quite a few territories that some of you would like to know about, which we'll get to just now. now. So Tandi, she kind of overlaps a little bit on Karula on the eastern side of Djuma, Little Gowrie into Annette, Chitwa, a little bit into Cheetah Plains, in Koro and Torchwood. So that's kind of Tandi. There we go. So we'll put Tandi. Now, it means that Shongile and Hosana, well, Shongile in particular, has now been sandwiched between these two. As far as we know, there's no big female that is north of her, so I suppose she's got some space that she can push in north. The other lucky thing for her is that there's no female to the south. We used to have a female called Kwetile. Some of you maybe used to know her. She was a offspring of Intima, and she used to be down on Hoffman's and into Shirley's, a little bit onto Vessels, but she died a few years ago, about 2 years ago, and it's left this big gap in this sort of area here. So Shongile potentially, hopefully we would say, will end up being this space here. Hopefully she can occupy that space, and that can be little Shongile. So hopefully that's going to come in, but she's definitely going to get pressure from Tandi coming this way and Shadow coming this way, now that there's no scent marking going on at the moment and no territorial calling happening. And so if Shongile does settle there, like I say, it would be about probably, I would say, in a year's time or so. Now, the other thing is we want to know also, a lot of you were asking me about Salahesh. I think it was Aaron, you were asking about Salahesh and where her territory lies. So I'm going to show you quickly now where that is. Let's see, what color should we do here? Craig, what do you want to go with? I think the red, because we're on the other side. So Salahesh has got a very big territory for a female. Her territory at the moment stretches pretty much this section like this, all the way along into Arathusa, towards Arathusa Lodge, down onto the Londolozi boundary. So that is all Salahesh. So we'll just put Sal for short because her name is long and I don't feel like spelling it all out. I've got to conserve my wrist action here for all of this. Now, she'll lie on that area. At the moment, Salahesh apparently is pregnant. So she should be having cubs soon. If she does have cubs, it will either be at Simamili camp or somewhere in the Manuleti, which flows along this area here. So she's going to spend more of her time sort of more concentrated in this area should she have cubs, which is great news for Tiani, because Tiani, who's the other little female that does occur in this area, she's been, well, she's Salahesh's cub, and she's been hanging around lately in this section here. So this is now Tiani, and that's also another female. So these are all females so far. So you can see it's now starting to get quite congested, and we still haven't even gotten to Nkanyeni yet, or even to Kuchava. So already space is starting to run out, and you can see that's why I say Shongile is going to have a really, really tough time. Now, we'll carry on with this, and I'll start adding more and more to them as we go. And while we do that, I think Byron is still sitting with the elephants in the nice dripping rain.
I am indeed, Tristan, and look at this big bull. I actually thought he was going to push this big marula tree down a few minutes ago, because he went and he lifted his trunk up and he leant against the tree and he shook it once or twice, and I've seen them do that before when they want to push a tree over, but he didn't. I think what he's done is he's just broken off some branches. Now have a look at this. This is very interesting behavior. Notice how the young elephant have come and joined him in feeding. It's almost like he has provided the tasty leaves from the top of the branch, from the top of the marula tree, for these ellies, young ellies, to feed on it. And look how they've all come and stood around him. But look how he towers also. He towers above them. He's such a huge elephant. He's a magnificent bull. And they completely relaxed. Cadence, no, the elephant tusks don't grow back if they break them off, chip them down, not at all. If a tip of the tusk is broken, it might grow back, but there's actually a whole nerve running through that tusk, and if it is broken, it does not grow back, Cadence. Oh, they seem so relaxed with us. I think this rain has also just caused them just to relax a little bit more. Oh, I can hear another elephant communicating. Sounds like just on the other side of a drainage line. This bull definitely would have heard that. I wonder if it will affect his behavior in any way, but it doesn't look like it. It doesn't look like they're too phased. JC Trolls, that's a tricky question. I'm not sure. You know, sometimes animals will tend to look for a bit of shelter in weather like this, so they won't move around as much. But then on the other hand, some animals do move around. It looks like these elephants aren't moving around as much. They're just happily feeding. They're also getting a lot of moisture now from all these leaves that they're feeding on. I'm just going to watch this male. Hang on. Coming quite close to us. Don't worry. Okay, we're just going to sit still. He doesn't look too phased. I think he just wants to walk past us. Wow, he is big. Look at that. And see how this herd is following him. That is interesting. Now, I heard Tristan and Jamie speaking about a herd this morning that were following a big bull. Now, I wonder if this isn't the herd. He's big, hey, Senzo? See, as he turned towards us there, you could get an idea. I mean, he was quite close. But again, I think if you sit still, calm voice, he'll generally calm down and walk right past you. But I wouldn't recommend you do it by yourself, because if you don't know exactly what to look for, you can get yourself into a bit of trouble with elephant. So just always be careful and respectful of them. But generally they stay very relaxed. I can hear that male is breaking some branches behind us. So we've got all the flaps down now because of the rain earlier. We had a big little downpour, so we can't see on the other side. I'll reposition if I see him moving. But for now, let's just wait. Lanya, no. Elephants in a herd won't all sleep at the same time. Not at all. There'll always be elephants that are watching, looking around. They'll rest together, but they're always alert. They're always aware of what's going on around them. But, yeah, they can. I mean, they do sleep, and we have seen them lying down, but not all at the same time, definitely. Someone has to look out if there's potential danger. I'm waiting for this other elephant to walk past us, perhaps. Can you get that open there? No, not really. No, don't worry. I think leave it, it's fine. Sorry, these flaps, I mean, they are necessary, but the problem is it makes filming very difficult now because we can't turn the camera around. And I can't move the vehicle because there's some elephant directly behind us. A very peaceful sighting though, I must be honest. Elephants are completely relaxed, just enjoying those marula branches that the big male broke off for them. Here comes one of the younger ones. Oh, Scott, I've never heard of an elephant being struck by lightning, so I don't know. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if they were introduced into an area that they weren't meant to be. An area where the rainfall is quite high or they get big storms. Maybe. You know what, I think I heard... Where was it? In Johannesburg. It's outside of Johannesburg. I think there were a giraffe that was struck by lightning and all killed in a certain area. But I've never heard of it happening with elephant. I don't think so, Scott. This is that younger male that I mentioned. that walked past earlier. Also doesn't look that young. I would say he's easily in his 20s, late 20s probably, judging by size, but not nearly as big as that other male. Amanda, yes, it is amazing to see them constantly feeding like this. And the reason again is purely because they need so much food and vegetation to be able to keep their bodies going. They don't have an efficient digestive system, so the elephant just constantly feed. And that's always I think my golden rule is a feeding elephant is a happy elephant. If you do see them, if they're feeding and they're eating and they're browsing off trees or picking grass, they generally relaxed. It's when they stop feeding and stand still and watch you that then best that you probably just leave them, because you don't want to cause them to charge you unnecessarily or react to you. Can you hear this one breaking some of the branches? Wow, really crunching down on them. Ross, the tusks actually serve quite a few functions. The tusks are there to help break vegetation down, so trees, branches, strip bark off of the trees. They'll use their sharp tusks to do that. They'll use their tusks to help dig for water and mud, and they're trying to mud bathe. Also, when they're fighting, the males will use their tusks. They obviously bash their tusks together and pushing each other around. So I suppose protection in a way. So a number of uses, but mainly to help with the feeding and breaking of the trees and the vegetation. Look at those beautiful tusks. There goes this young male now. There's a little roller that just flew down behind him, flew off again. This elephant, often what they do is they disturb insects while they're walking, so other birds will come down and pick off insects. Look how that elephant's actually stripping the bark off that branch. Oh, it actually fed on the whole branch. Haley, good afternoon to you. You say you're 5 years old. Haley, I hope you're having a lovely weekend and enjoying these elephant with us. You want to know why they only eat leaves. Well, Haley, that's just the way the elephants have been made. They are herbivores, which means they only eat plant material, and so grass or leaves or branches. That's all the elephant eat, and that is why they are called herbivores. So they don't eat anything else. They don't have to. They get all the nutrients they need from the leaves and from the trees and the grasses that they feed on. So there's no need for them to feed on anything else. Just like all the antelope species, buffalo, rhino, giraffe, all of those animals are all herbivores. This is very, very peaceful. I could sit here and watch elephant for hours. It's actually getting a bit chilly though. See how he's leaning to one side? Do you see that? Now, elephant will do that when they are resting. They'll sometimes rest the two legs and they'll lean to one side. Reese, in Scotland, elephants can most definitely smell the must from big males, and I'm sure they would then realize what what state those males are in. I think the communication levels between elephant, I don't think we are even able to understand all of them. They will know exactly which elephants are aggressive, which are not, what the intentions are of the elephant. So if a big male comes into a herd, the females know he's looking to mate. Definitely. But their sense of smell is, I mean, it's incredible. So they can definitely smell a musk bull elephant from miles away, probably much further than we could smell it. I'm going to see where the rest of these elephants have moved off. Tristan is enjoying the dry tent, and he's apparently still fiddling around with the microscope.
Well, I was fiddling around with the microscope, but I had a naughty grasshopper that jumped out and wouldn't sit still, and so I don't know where it's gone. I know they were attacking Jamie and Taylor this morning in the tent, and Taylor was fighting them off, but unfortunately I think she lost the whole thing as well, and it ended up jumping out, and it came back in, but I can't get it to sit still. So then I was trying to fight with a crab spider, which is also not really working just yet, but we'll get to that just now. That can be for a little bit later. Now, James, two things. Firstly, you were asking me this morning about which sort of antelope comes into sexual maturity the latest. So I've been trying to read up about it and trying to see, and there's very little on it, and I was looking at all the sort of bigger antelope species, trying to see if maybe it's them, so giraffe, zebra, but they're all very similar. They're all around sort of 3 to 4 years for the females, and then upwards of sort of 5 years for the males. So it's zebra and giraffe were the two highest that I found so far, but I will keep going through them. It takes a bit of time to get through every single one of the antelope that we see out here, but so far those are the two. And then your other question was, which relates to all the leopards that we've been doing earlier, was whereabouts in Cheetah is and whether she could potentially be a competition or competitive female for Shongile. Now, for those of you who don't know who Inchila is, Inchila comes from a female called Insele. Now, Insele is one of Salehesh's daughters from quite a long time ago. Actually, I'm not sure how old Zinsele is these days, but she's got one eye. She's quite easily recognizable. She's got this one eye, but she hangs around more right into the sort of western side of the reserve. So Insele kind of sits in this area here. This is all Insele's territory, and what I've heard lately is that Inchila has been kind of in this section here the last few weeks, so she could potentially move, which relates to what Jason is asking. So Jason, you're wondering if leopards ever switch territories. Well, this is sort of an interesting sort of part of it, because Shongile and Tiani and Inchila are all young females. Those females have all yet to become territorial females, and so even though they're hanging around in these respective areas, they are still going to move a lot. We know that Inchila has gone from there. We've seen her all the way on Djuma, and she's moved around all over the place. I've seen her down on Shirley's before. I've seen her on Arathusa, EP, and even some of them have seen her on Hoffman. So she is yet to establish a territory. So yes, they can move territory, and Tundi is probably the best example of a territorial female changing her territory. So when Tundi was first sort of out and about on her own and had her first litter of cubs, where you used to find her was on Nkoro, in front of their camp along the Rupapi riverbed that runs there. That was where Tundi used to hang around. Inkanyeni then started to shift down out of Buffelshoek and Torchwood, so we'll add her in now. But she started to come down this way like this, and Tundi has now shifted further west. And it seems she's coming more and more west, because when I left her this morning, she was going quite deep into Little Gari, and that's an area that she doesn't normally go into. And we've been finding tracks on Mamba Road. Now, Mamba Road lies on the western side of Djuma. The eastern side of Djuma, and that is an area that typically Karula used to walk on. But I know that there's been quite a few tracks of a female leopard in that area, and if it was Karula, I'm pretty sure we would have bumped into her, because the tracks keep going into Torchwood, and we keep finding Tundi ahead of us in Torchwood, so I would imagine that's where Tundi's going. But that's a prime example of how a female's leopard's territory shifts. Now, the cause of that is one, competition from another female, but the other reason for it is because you'll find that they will give certain sections to their cubs in order to give them a sort of start in life. So Salahesh is sort of one of them that's done that. As you can see, and Sele was one of her cubs, so she gave up this sort of area here. She used to go up into Piccadilly, Utah, and into Ottawa quite a bit. Now Salahesh very, very seldom crosses this cut line here into Ottawa, and this is kind of all in Sele's territory at the moment. So let me add in Nkanyeni, and then we've got our females for today. So Katie, you were wondering about Nkanyeni. I'm just going to put Nkan. So there she is, and that's her area there. And then the only other female that we see on Safari Live currently, or sort of regularly at the moment, would be Kuchava, and she's not even a regular. Now that's one of Tundi's daughters, and she's the only other one that I haven't added to this just yet, and she sits over here at the moment. So she's on Cheetah Plains, south of Tundi, and in Nkanyeni and into Mala Mala. So that is Kuchava. And there we go, that's the females that we are seeing currently. Obviously Karula is missing, but the rest of them, that is the sort of distribution of them. There's obviously a lot of other females that occur in Ottawa, in Londolozi and Mala Mala, and so there will be some sort of push up from here, but those are the potential females that we see, and you can see it's a very congested area. That's not an incredibly large area for leopards. We're probably only looking at about 8,000 hectares, so it's not that big an area for this amount of leopards to be, but there is definitely plenty of space for the younger leopards to start shifting. If we look into this Buffelshoek area, the Shirley's area, and even onto Hoffman's vessels and nets, there is some sections there that are available. Now, talking about leopards, I believe Jamie is trying her very, very best to try and track down one of the male leopards, and we'll get into their territories in a little bit.
I'm trying very hard, as Tristan said, to track down Hosana. We've got relatively fresh tracks after the big rain that we had earlier on today coming into this area. So basically what we've got is 3 vehicles going round and round and round, desperately trying to work out where he is. There's so many elephants in that area that we can't jump off and go for a walk, unfortunately, not without finding ourselves in a little bit of trouble. But I'm hoping that the presence of a herd of elephant might encourage Hosana to move out, although we've seen him try to stalk elephant before. As young male leopards do, they like to have fun, and Hosana is no exception. I know that Tristan's going to go into male leopard territories in a little bit, but it'll be fascinating one day to find out where Hosana finally settles himself. Where's he going to end up? I keep checking up in the trees because I'm thinking wet grass, cold, damp. I mean, a tree is breezy, but at least it's not cold and wet. I'm hoping he might be out in the open. We've checked all of his favorite places. Maybe one more check of Twin Dams. Perhaps he'll pop out there. I hope so. And if we don't have any luck on this final circuit, then I think it's time for us to move on. We can always try again later this evening. There's a good chance he'll pop out either here or Treehouse Dam. Be my 2 guesses. The question is whether or not Shongile is as well. It's either Kaden or Tegan. I'm not 100% sure. Caden, I was on the right track. Caden, you want to know when will leopard cubs leave their mothers? Oh, Caden, it depends very much on the circumstances. Obviously, we've got an exception here in that Hosana and Shongile are actually quite young to be off on their own. We don't know where Karula is. We're not sure what's happened to her. We don't have any answers on that at this point. So they're a little bit young. Generally speaking, the females will become independent quicker than the males, which makes sense because ultimately the males are going to have a slightly tougher time of things when competing with other territorial males, or at least staying out of their way. So females can be around about 1.5 years, 18 months, sometimes a little bit longer, sometimes a little bit shorter, and the males can stay with their mums for 2 years, sometimes even longer. And they'll often, even once they're independent from her, they'll often hang out in her territory for quite an extended period of time. Sometimes go and share her kills, essentially make a nuisance of themselves for a while. So it is very much circumstantial. The average span between litters. Oh, he was here. Surprise. I did not know. He is such a sneaky hippopotamus, this one that lives at Twin Dams. Just quickly, the average gap between leopard litters is around about 25 months, so just over 2 years. And obviously once a female has cubs, she is going to be far more interested in the new set of cubs' welfare rather than the older cubs. I wonder if he's seen a leopard. I bet he has. Excuse me. Have you seen Hosanna? I found him to be quite a taciturn hippo in Twin Dams. He never responds when I ask him questions. Every now and again, he gives us a warning yawn and a head shake. It's actually quite a skittish hippo. And we've walked around this dam or this waterhole quite a bit. And he does tend to, you can't outstay your welcome with him. He starts to get a little bit concerned and starts making, aggressive is the wrong word, threat displays essentially, but it's more just out of him feeling uncomfortable and wanting to make sure that you don't threaten him in any way. And generally a hippo will feel safe in water, but it does depend on the size of the water that he's in, the depth of the water hole, the space that he has, or any hippo has, as to whether or not they feel comfortable. Because, I mean, you can, in certain circumstances, walk right up to the water's edge. Other times you just can't. Look, vanished. I drove past here earlier. I had absolutely no idea he was here. There was not a ripple across the surface apart from the drizzle. Up he pops. Well, we go off one more time in search of young Hosanna. Let's go across to Tristan with something that will make arachnophobes squirm.
Will indeed, and it wouldn't be a safari live drive without some sort of mention of a spider. We seem to be on a roll lately with spiders. I know Taylor was chatting about them this morning, and on pretty much every bushwalk we've been finding quite a number of them. And while I was fiddling around with my chair, I noticed a chrysalis of an old butterfly, and I was sort of looking at it, and a little web came down, and out popped a little crab spider. So I was saying just now, the crab spider was very difficult to get onto the microscope, and it's because it's minute, and I'll try and show you a sort of size reference of it. But let's jump to the microscope, because it is really quite amazing the detail that we can see. Now you can see there are its eyes, so it's got that almost sort of angular head, and those two red eyes in the front, and then the little black eyes on top, two black eyes there, and two bigger black eyes to the side. And so those are the only ones I can focus on so far. But isn't that amazing? Now, if I show you how big this spider is, to be able to see that detail is just mind-blowing. It really, really does amaze me. So, if you have a look here, now Craig, I don't know if you're going to be able to show this, but inside the microscope, it's going to be probably quite hard. I don't want to move the microscope because there's a number of other little things that I want to show you on the spider, but there's a blade of grass in front, and there, sorry Craig, it's my fault maybe.
That's cool.
You can see the little spider in at the back there behind the grass. So that is how small that spider is. So when we're seeing its eyes, you can imagine just how small it is. Isn't that incredible? So inside there, and that's why I was battling a little bit to try and get it into focus and try and find a way to show you all of it. But that's what amazes me about the microscope. What I also want to do is try and go through its sort of anatomy and start going through its legs and check out its abdomen and see if we maybe can't even see its little spinnerets where the silk comes out, because it was spinning silk, so there should be a little bit of silk attached to the abdomen. So if maybe I can turn the grass just right, I might be able to get this all sorted out, and we'll be able to see the underside of a spider, which is also very, very interesting. And we're going to try and see if we can't see any little fangs there. Those are also normally quite big on a spider, so I'm hoping to try and find that just now. But that's going to be very fiddly work, so we'll try and see what else we've got. But what I have noticed is that James has an infestation in his tent, and he's going to be probably quite upset about it. Not only are there spiders, but there are a number of ants that are crawling around. So if you have a look at the bottom here, we've got a whole bunch of small little ants that are crawling all over the place and all over my legs and are driving me a little bit crazy, to be honest. Now they look like little cocktail ants, but I'll have to just check but you can see the size of them in relation to the sand, and they really are making a bit of a mess. They're going up and down all over the place, and we don't want these guys to make a colony inside the tent because they're going to cause quite a bit of damage. So we're going to have to come up with a way that we're going to evict them. Now I wonder if they're not collecting grass seeds from all the pieces of grass that we bring in and look under the microscope, because they seem to be sort of taking little bits back and forward. Now, we are about to go into an ad break, so it's going to be a short little break while I play around with our spider on the microscope and Jamie looks for leopards. We'll see you all in a little bit. And we're back. Well done, there we go. Thank you, Kirsty. Good timing, I should hope. And that was our fake little ad break for our TV shows, which promises to be really good. It's going to be Mother's Day, so hopefully we'll have all the mothers out, and I'm hoping the sticks will be out, and maybe Shadow and Cub. Wouldn't that be nice? Right, so our ants are causing havoc. I'm going to try and just see if I can't get just the fangs of the spider while I've still got it set up. Oh no, I bumped it, which is no good. But let's see. I don't think I can get the fangs from where we are, but what we can get, Kirst, is the hairs. So if we go to the microscope, so there we go, you can see there's now little fine hairs. I'm going to just put something in the way there so the exposure is a little bit better because the lights are a bit bright. But if you have a look on the legs, you'll see that there are tiny little hairs there. Now unfortunately I can't show them to you because I've got the microscope as far in as possible just to be able to see it, and those little hairs will help this spider negotiate its web. So that's how they're able to kind of get across there, and they will be able to detect any sort of vibration through those hairs, and if any little animal lands and tries to sort of get into the web and cause a little vibration in it, that's what's going to pick it up, and the spider will come running across. It actually has two little claws which I'm trying to find, but I can't see them very nicely because of the way that the legs are situated. But let's see if maybe we come out onto, there we go. You can actually see the silk now on the leg on the right hand side, and that's how they negotiate on their web. So these are these two sort of protrusions that come out, and that grips onto the web and it doesn't stick, and it's able to then move around on the web itself. Isn't that incredible that we can actually see the thread and how microscopic that thread is, as well as the leg that is on it, which is really, really amazing. These little spiders are incredible, and these microscopes are even better. So like I say, I'm going to try and see if I can't get its spinnerets out and see if there's not a way that we can see where the web comes out. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron, the big boss, and see how he's doing and where he is and what he's up to.
Just a big boss can't actually find anything at the moment, but I'm not too stressed just yet. It's a lovely afternoon. A lot of sign of elephant all over the show, breaking branches. Look at this, it's pushing these branches out into the road. Give me a second, everyone. Hold on. Stay with us. Just going to listen out and see if we can also just move this quickly. Oh dear. It would be the biggest tree that the elephant decided to push over. There we go. Not too bad. Just because what often happens is people start driving around these branches and it causes the roads to widen a bit, which is not ideal. So if you can just push them out the way, it's much better. Now, in search, I'd like to try and give Jamie a hand for that young leopard, but I know there are a few other vehicles in that area, so I'm trying to listen out, actually, just to hear if we hear any alarm calls for anything. It's still very wet. I don't think a leopard would really like to be moving through this long grass at the moment after all this rain. I'm guessing that young male is possibly lying on top of a termite mound somewhere, maybe even up in a tree. That would be my guess. JC Charles, you say that it sounds like there's a leopard on Djuma Cam. Now, where is that? Is that the Djuma Dam on Cheetah Plains? I assume that's where it is. Oh, is it? I wonder. Do you think the Impala alarm calling maybe that they've seen something. I wonder, has anybody got a view on the Djuma cam that can tell us, Tristan, what are you doing in the tent? Get on that, let me know. Okay, so Tristan says he thinks it might be impala just rutting. So you might be hearing a lot of snorting and grunting and impala running around. Listen carefully. If those impala are moving quite quickly, chances are it's possibly just the males rutting. And they do that when they, obviously now this time of year, trying to mate. Hang on, I can hear a bit of a bird party here. Let's see what... Where are all these little birds making the noise? Right, some magpie shrikes just off to the side there. You see them? Oh, sorry, the bar is directly in your way. Hold on. There we go. Some magpie shrikes just off in those, in that little thicket, the long-tailed shrike or the magpie shrike. I wonder if they saw something. What's causing them to look down like that? You know what, it just looks like they're a bit wet. Look at that. Isn't that? That's actually very cute. Very wet magpie shrike. Has a lovely view of it just over here. Look at this. There's another one there. And oh, there they go. There's a few of them. There's some hornbills here too. Some doves. All these little magpie shrikes. There they go. Really nice to see them. There's plenty of them around here. Beautiful birds. And there are the hornbills. Yeah, this I think if I had found this little group of birds yesterday, my bird list would have been much higher than what I got in the tent. I'd like to say that I think it was slightly unfair that I was stuck in the tent while the girls were birding. But there are no sore losers here. It was quite fun. I really enjoy the birding competitions like that. It's just a lot of fun. Especially when a few of us, if we are able to go out on a vehicle together and we try and identify birds together or have a bird competition together. We used to do that when I was training a lot with James, myself, Graham, David, Mike, Jess and Adam. We were all together and we would go out, split the vehicle in half and decide one team from the other, and then you had to name a bird, and as you saw it, you had to name it. Whoever saw it first and named it first got the points. 1 point for a right answer. If you shouted a name and you were wrong, it was -5. So you can imagine the competition was very high, and we had to be very careful about what we shouted out, and if you got it wrong, the team was very upset with you.